let's talk about
Oh my God, I would
CFP.
love
All right, let's get the easy ones out of the way.
to.
Georgia, Bama, both in the right spot, right? 1 and 2.
Yeah.
No questions asked.
I don't think that there's.
I mean, I know some people are gonna be like, "Well, Bama's got the history." I'm sorry, you win that many national titles in the last decade, you're given the benefit of the doubt.
I think that an
is.
undefeated team, an undefeated Alabama team without Nick Saban doesn't get ranked number 2. And I don't know why I think that, but that's just me. You know,
I mean, like,
without
let's say
Nick
Nick Saban, I don't know, keels over and dies, and then whoever takes over wins. I think they still make it. Like, they have
they have a good
recent
team.
legacy.
I mean, they're a dynasty.
They recruit very well, and they will continue to recruit very well for a long time.
They reload. They're the ones that reload.
Yeah,
Well.
no, they always do. Anyway, so now it's the 3 through 8 range, I would say, is where all the controversy is. Yeah. Wake Forest finally lost, so no one gives a shit.
And I don't know how they only
anymore.
went down 3. I don't know how that happened. They should be like 18.
Yeah, well, I don't care. If you're outside the top 10.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it
don't
doesn't
give a
matter.
shit.
I just think that it's irrelevance territory at that point. Because, again, like Wake Forest, like they got no good opponents on their schedule, and they lose to one of them. Like, who the hell are you? You get out of here. You're lower than UTSA. Yeah. That's where I'll put them. Lower than UTSA. Because, you know, UTSA hasn't played anyone, but guess what? They have won every game.
They have won every game.
So, I don't know.
Okay, so then we get into... Then it's, 3 is Oregon, 4 is Ohio State, 5 is Cincy, 6 is Michigan, 7 is Michigan State, 8 is Oklahoma.
And 9 Notre Dame.
Here,
and OK State is number 10. I just want to put that out there. OK State.
Are they undefeated?
Oklahoma State lost 1 game. You know who it was to?
Okay, so they won't make it.
Okay. But hear me out. I don't think that they'll make it in. I'm not saying that. I think they can ruin Oklahoma.
They won't breach the top 6.
So Iowa State is the game that Oklahoma State lost to. Iowa State's not a bad game, and here's what I'll say: if Oklahoma wins every game this year, obviously they get in. But even if Oklahoma loses 1 and beats Baylor and Oklahoma State, but the game they lost is to Iowa, they're still going to view that game with value, and Iowa State's a good team. I just want to put that out there. Like, they're not some hunky-do, unranked garbage team. Like, they are a fringe top 25 team.
It wouldn't be a hurtful loss. I just think with how high they are already, I don't know if Oklahoma can afford a loss.
No, I think that I think that Oklahoma State loses a game, and it'll be the last game of the season.
Wait, are we talking about Oklahoma or Oklahoma State?
I think that Oklahoma will lose a game, and it'll be the last game of the season.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, see. This damn microphone stand's giving me issues. Anyway, what I think is going to happen... Alabama is the big unknown to me because I think Georgia beats them in the SEC championship game.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what it will take for them to not make it.
I think that they don't
if they win out and then lose that game. I think it depends, obviously. And I just want to be clear about one thing, right? Michigan being at 6 and Michigan State being at 7 probably isn't correct because I get that the college football playoff is trying to rank the team that is the best. That's why, Bama is that high, even though they lost. It's it doesn't matter. I mean, I do think to a certain extent the performance should matter.
Yeah.
But I get why the one-loss teams are in there.
Well, that's
it also
the thing.
Depends on who you beat.
I kind of like it that they're not anticipating perfection.
Yeah. And there's not. I mean, Georgia's going to be the only one this year, and even then, they got to go against Bama. It's going to be a good game in that SEC title.
Well,
game.
and you think about it, you got teams like Ohio State, right? If you schedule, is this not? What am I trying to say? Is this not, what is it favoring teams who have an intent to schedule? right? Like Ohio State, right, goes out. Look at the difference between these two teams, okay? Ohio State goes out and schedules number 12 Oregon, second game, first non-conference game of the year, okay? Like, if you are scheduling legitimate teams in your schedule as non-conference opponents, you should absolutely get something from that. Like, Oregon goes out there and schedules Ohio State. Oregon goes out and beats Ohio State. And then Oregon loses some garbage game to whatever. And with Michigan State, it's a little different because Michigan State lost to a conference opponent as well. Whereas Oregon lost to a conference opponent, but they scheduled a good non-conference opponent. Like, Michigan went out and again, these are two very separate circumstances. But Michigan went out. Their non-conference opponents were Western Michigan, Washington, Northern Illinois, and is that it? I think that's it. Like, that's not a great. They didn't have a home game until they played Wisconsin. I mean, a road game. I'm sorry, they didn't have a road game until they played Wisconsin. And so I just think that the intent to schedule should be important when you consider what you're expecting from a team. Like, I think if a team is scheduling with at least some sort of intention, I think that. Like, Wake Forest is out here playing Old Dominion and whoever the hell, Norfolk State. Like, one is a Conference USA school and one's an FCS school. Like, I'm not impressed by that.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, like, performance needs to matter, and also how good your team is needs to matter. And I think the committee does a bad job a lot of the time, but I think they're doing an okay job this year.
I agree.
And like I said,
I agree.
literally none of this matters, right? This is all just so people like us and people in the sports media and people on Twitter in the sports world have something to talk about on a week-to-week basis, right? That's all that matters. So I think the big thing that they're showing, though, is, one, your schedule matters, who you face matters, and who you beat matters, and also who you lose to matters. I think the biggest inconsistency, right, they're kind of trying to show that, like, your performance on the field matters as much as, like, the projection of you being a good team. Alabama's a good team. They had one loss, and that matters, but it wasn't to, like, it wasn't Appalachian State. It was a Power 5 team. Not a great one, but it was that nonetheless, and they've mud-stomped everyone else. And, again, you have the benefit of the doubt being Bama. Ohio State loses to the number 4 ranked Oregon Ducks. Or, sorry, the number 3 ranked Oregon Ducks. And while, yes, Oregon has a worse loss to Stanford, they have better wins, like against UCLA and against Ohio State, and they've clearly shown, like, the head-to-head matchups matter, except for one, obviously.
There's also something that people are forgetting too is the amount of statistics and analytics that these committee members get to see, because I mean, you got to think, like, this is a 2 to 3 day process, or whatever. Like, they do this from Saturday, or, well, not Saturday, but they do this from Sunday to Monday. Maybe they might even do it into Tuesday. But this is a like 48-hour process. Like, they go into a room, they look at a shit ton of stats and analytiks and everything, and then they actually get into.
See, for me, I'd just be like, eyeball test.
All right, yeah, it's not like me and you where we're just shit talking, like, we're looking at a screen and we're like, oh, that team's better than that team. Like, some people are thinking Cincinnati's good because I want to talk about. At them.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like Cincinnati is going to go winless, and people want to say, like, oh, well, why are teams with losses getting? Because Ohio State lost to Oregon. They didn't lose to nobody. They lost to Oregon. And, like, yeah, Cincinnati beat Notre Dame on the road, and they beat Indiana, I think.
Yeah, but Indiana doesn't count. I mean, it doesn't.
It's a Power 5 team.
Yeah, but it's
a Power 5 team.
Yeah, but it's not.
I don't care.
Like...
I don't care. It's a Power 5 team.
Okay, but then if you're gonna give, they're
not. No, shut up. Shut up. Let me explain. They are not good. I'm not saying Indiana's good, but they are. a non-Power 5 school scheduling Power 5 teams. That matters.
I mean,
but here's the thing. When the rest of your conference is Western Kentucky and I don't know, like just a bunch of like nobodies, that matters. Like, because the thing is like, yeah, Michigan went against Indiana and they mud stomped them. But guess what? Michigan also has to go against Penn State, Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and like, yeah, Maryland, Rutgers, those guys aren't very good in the Big Ten East, but like that's harder than like those games alone are harder than like the entirety of the conference schedule for Cincinnati. And I think that's basically what the committee is saying. It's like, listen, you don't play anyone that good. We're going to reward the teams that actually have to go and face real college schools every week that you don't. It's like people say, well, what do they have to do? Be in a Power 5 conference. Like, that's really the answer. If you want to be in the playoff, be in the Power 5 conference.
And I mean, they are going to be. I'm pretty sure that they just accepted an invite to the Big 12, which is bad news because I don't want the Big 12 to exist.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other talk. But, like, I really think it comes down to the fact, like, that's where the projection is like, they know like Cincinnati like is not better than Oregon or Ohio State.
Right.
Even though their record is better, they just know that that's not the case, so they're not going to do it. And let's be real, I would bet the other three are also better. Michigan State, Michigan, and Oklahoma are also way better than Cincinnati. But it's they have to put them at 5 to appease people, otherwise there'd be a riot. So I think really what it comes down to is the one thing I don't get is Michigan State should be above Michigan. Like, that's just plain and simple. They have the head-to-head win. Ohio State is better than Oregon, I think, like, pretty clearly in terms of, like, if you're trying to project, like, oh, we think Michigan's a better team than Michigan State. Okay, but you're not doing that with Oregon and Ohio State. So you got to keep that consistent.
Yeah.
And then as far as, like, Oklahoma just went out and you're in. Like, that's that easy.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess the good news and the weird news really is that like the Big Ten stuff will sort itself out. The weird thing about the Pac-12 is that mostly won't actually. Like Oregon in terms of and they've been stomping people. Like, they look like they are the Oregon of like 2012 or whatever, where they're just putting up video game numbers on people. This like game against Colorado, 52-29. This game against just looking at the scores, like Arizona, 41-19. Like, they're just beating teams by 20 points in their conference. So I feel like that has a lot to do with it. They just beat with Washington 26-16, but they play Utah on the 20th and they play Oregon State on the 27th. I don't think that, I mean, they play Washington State coming up, but like, I don't know, like, I don't think that they have any like big value opponents outside of Ohio State. Like, that's their signature win. And I think the Pac-12 title game might have some more to say about that, but the Big Ten stuff will mostly sort itself out. Like at least one of those three teams, Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State, will have 2 losses.
One of those teams will finish. Well, I guess technically they could all finish with 2 losses.
They could. That's true.
If Penn State could throw a wrench in a lot of plans here, but I think what happens is one of those teams is going to win out.
Yeah.
I
think it's Ohio State.
If I had to bet my money, if I had to bet my money, it's Ohio State. I think the college football playoff is going to look like this. It's going to be Georgia. It's going to look like Ohio State, probably Oregon, and then like that third slot's a wild card between, I think, Bama and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And unless they both self-destruct, and then I guess Cincinnati sneaks in. That's about it. It's just so weird though. Like, this is one of the more interesting years because I feel like by now there's like, it's really down to 6 teams, and we still realistically are at 8 teams that can get into the playoffs.
And I think that's why you're going to have a lot of people who are like advocating for the 8-team playoff. I think that would be good. What's interesting to me is if we have an 8-team playoff, that's obviously a totally separate conversation. Like, we got, Oklahoma's in that last spot at 8th. But I also feel like they might be valued a little differently, right? Like that might have something to do with it. But Oklahoma, if we go by just these rankings, Oklahoma would be 8th. Notre Dame's outside looking in. Like, and then you value, like, Texas A&M had that win against Alabama. Like, I think that if we were doing an 8-team playoff, I think that you would value these teams almost incredibly differently, and you would put Texas A&M in over Oklahoma. And they would be in the top 8 because Texas A&M had that signature win. Even though they only have 2 losses, like, you would put that in there. And they're one of those 2 losses was to Arkansas, and that one the last win was just against Auburn, so they just beat Auburn. Like, you know what I mean? And so I just think that it's very interesting how that would change the dynamic of everything. But I think it would make it more exciting because not only would you have a more like accurate end of the season and teams that are actually supposed to be in. You're gonna have more of that. I think that it would make more exciting bowl games, like in the sense of like there was one last week when the first CFP rankings came out, like that was projecting Cincinnati at what 6 and Michigan State at 3. Like that would be a good game. Like I would love to watch Michigan State and Cincinnati. Like that would be a good game. Whereas like with other with some teams like Alabama beating up on a team like
Yeah.
Like I don't want to see Alabama play Oregon or Georgia. I mean, well, Georgia, Ohio State might actually be fun, but not this year. I don't know. Like Ohio State does not look like an SEC team.
No, but like Ohio State's Ohio State.
Wow.
I
think they'll win the Big Ten. I just don't.
I think they'll. If they go against they would be like. See, they'll probably end up they could very well end up the 2 seed, and I think they could beat Oregon again. I think if they go against Oregon, they beat. I think they could go to at least the final this year. I don't think anyone's beaten Georgia.
No, I don't either.
This really is a contest to be like, hey, congrats, you made the playoff, and a chance to lose to Georgia.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm looking back at our predictions from the college football play.
Yeah.
We both had Clemson in the predictions.
I don't know. That is so funny.
I think I'll be honest, that was probably due to a lack of knowing where these teams were
we
at.
Didn't know what Clemson
I didn't
had.
even predict Georgia. Well, and that too. And I just thought keep rolling with it, right? I didn't even have Georgia in. That's the biggest miss. You had Georgia, but you don't have Bama. I have Bama, but not Georgia. We both have Ohio State and Oklahoma.
Right.
So it's possible one of us, most likely, you're going to potentially be right, except for Clemson, if Bama doesn't get in,
right,
and Oklahoma and OSU does. It's going to be It's going to be Oregon. That's going to be the crazy one.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Like I don't think anybody anticipated it. I mean it's hard to predict that because the Pac-12. What do you got to do? Predict 1 out of every 10 years that the Pac-12 is good? You know what I mean? It was so unlikely that the Pac-12 would be good because they hadn't been good since 2015.
By the way, I did predict in that episode, Pac-12, I said Oregon would be the most likely to make the CFP. And
that's true.
I didn't say they would. I said they were most likely, and I'm right on that. I don't think I can be wrong at this point. They're definitely the most likely this year.
No, I don't think that another Pac-12 team is in the 25, are they?
I don't think so.
No, Utah. Utah. I'm sorry. Utah is number 24.
God, I always forget. They're barely Pacific.
Yeah, so
they're in the middle of a fucking desert. That's not Pacific.
Well, and Utah's 6-3.
Sorry, Utah.
They're not. I mean, they're not great. But look at the rest of the Pac-12. You got UCLA at 5-4. USC is 4-5. Colorado 3-6. Arizona 1-8. And you got teams that are not only. 3 teams in the whole conference have 6 wins.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think, this is just one of those things. We got to see. The only one that matters is in December, right?
Course, yeah.
December 8th, I think, is when they announce it.
Yeah.
Because that'll be when all is said and done.
Right.
I think it's OSU, it's Oregon, it's Georgia, obviously, and it's either going to be Bama or Oklahoma,
Yeah.
depending on how this shakes out. I think a 2-loss Bama team does get in over a 1-loss Oklahoma team.
Yeah.
That would be the world would be
would
ablaze.
end.
People, Oklahoma would fucking secede. I don't even know how they do that. They're in the middle of everything.